All right, let's dive right in today. We're going to be looking at Blue Star Limited, and their Q3 FY25 numbers were pretty interesting.
Yeah, they really jumped out.
25% revenue growth, hitting over 2,800 crore rupees, and then even bigger profit growth, like almost 32% to 132 crore. So definitely a successful quarter, it seems like. But we wanted to kind of dig in a little bit deeper,
Absolutely.
see what's really going on. And we've got the transcript here from Blue Star's earnings conference call. That was from January 30th. So we're going to be pulling out some of the key insights from this, really focusing on, what are the drivers of this growth, what challenges are they facing, and then where do they see things going in the near future. And we really want to zero in on the unitary products segment, so things like room ACs.
Yeah, that seems to be where a lot of the excitement is for this company.
Exactly, exactly. So for all of you listening who really want to get up to speed quickly on Blue Star, you're in the right place. Let's break it down. So starting with those unitary products, specifically the room ACs, that seems to be, like I said, a big area of growth, like really exceptional.
Yeah, and it's funny, they even described their room AC business as an outlier amongst all of the consumer durables. It really is. You're talking about 22% revenue growth. They even had 100 basis points of margin expansion in this segment. Again, basis point is just 1/100th of a percentage point. So that's pretty remarkable. And I think a lot of people might be wondering, was this just because of a long summer? It was hot for a long time.
Yeah, that's my first thought.
Yeah, and the management actually addressed that. They were like, yeah, a good summer definitely helps. But what really drove that strong Q3 was demand during the festive season. And then there are these other fundamental factors they talked about, some interesting shifts happening in the market.
Yeah, like what specifically, what were they saying?
Well, one thing they pointed out was the low penetration of room ACs across India. And they really emphasized
But a
that.
lot of first-time buyers still.
Oh, yeah, huge potential. So it's not just replacing old units. You've got this massive wave of first-time buyers, which, likely fueled by rising incomes, especially in like the tier 2, tier 3 cities. They even mentioned, industry projections see a CGR of 19% over the next 5 years for room ACs. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's huge.
I mean, 19% CGR. Basically, the market's going to double in size roughly every 4 years. So that's pretty significant.
Wow. So, all right, low penetration, lots of first-time buyers.
Yeah.
What else is driving all this growth?
Well, they talked about how prices have been stable, thanks to competition, a healthy competitive environment, and also this localization trend. More AC components are now being made right in India.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that keeps costs down, which is key, right? Another thing was financing. More and more people are using financing to buy ACs. Like 35 to 40% of sales are happening that way.
Oh.
It's really making them accessible, right? And then they also talked about, better energy efficiency, which of course leads to lower power bills. I mean, nobody wants to save money on the AC and then just get killed by these huge electricity bills.
Yes, exactly.
It makes it much more attractive when they're energy efficient. And they actually made an interesting point about modern housing design. Often, not great natural ventilation,
Right.
making ACs almost essential. And this was really interesting. They even suggested a possible shift in how people are spending their disposable income.
Oh, what do you mean?
Instead of upgrading their smartphone every year, they might be choosing to buy a long-lasting essential item like an AC, more focused on comfort, I guess.
Huh. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. It kind of speaks to changing priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit and think about the immediate future. Summer's coming up.
Right.
Are we seeing retailers stocking up for the next season?
Yeah, that was discussed in the call. So they said channel partners are definitely increasing their inventory in anticipation of the summer demand.
Okay.
And Blue Star itself has new products launching. So it's all, gearing up for the hot months. But what's interesting is they said there's no significant excess inventory
Oh, okay.
in the distribution channels, which is good, right? It means things are moving.
Yeah.
It's a healthy sign.
All right, so healthy inventory levels, strong demand projected. Where does Blue Star stand right now in terms of market share in this room AC segment?
They're currently at about 14%. And their goal, their stated ambition, is to reach 15%, which they believe would, make them a very significant player.
Okay, so not a huge jump, but a significant jump for them.
Yeah, they think that 12.5 to 15% share makes them a real force in the market.
Got it. And of course, profitability is always a key metric. What's the outlook there for this unitary product segment?
So they gave guidance. They said their EBIT margin, earnings before interest and taxes, that's going to be around 8 to 8.5% for segment 2.
Hmm?
which is the unitary products segment.
Okay.
Now, they did say that could fluctuate depending on, commodity prices, supply chain, forex rates, all those things can impact it. So things to watch.
Right, yeah, of course. Those things are always kind of up in the air. So strong performance in the unitary products, especially the room ACs.
Yeah.
What about their other businesses? What else is going on?
Well, segment I, which is electromechanical projects and commercial air conditioning,
Yeah.
that also saw strong revenue growth,
Okay.
32.2% revenue growth. And order inflow grew even more, 38.7%.
Yeah.
So a lot of demand there.
That's great.
They highlighted, factories, data centers, those are real growth sectors. But then demand from commercial real estate and infrastructure, that was a little bit muted.
Okay.
Yeah. But the profit margin for this segment was 7.6%, which is in line with their expectations. Now they're also trying to grow their international business.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, in Europe and North America. But that's more like the OEM side.
Yeah.
They're acting as a manufacturer for other companies. So they said they've had some initial success getting products approved, initial shipments going out. But, they're also aware of the headwinds, economic slowdown in Europe, trade policy uncertainties in the U.S. So it may take a little time to really scale up.
Yeah, makes sense. A lot of external factors at play there. So that's segment 1. What about segment 3?
All right, so segment 3, this is professional electronics and industrial systems, actually saw a revenue decline here, down 22.1%.
Oh, wow. What happened?
Yeah, so there were challenges in the medtech and data security businesses. That really hit them, although they did have some positive momentum in their industrial solutioning division.
So some bright spots.
Yeah, and they are expecting this segment to bounce back next fiscal year in FY26. So they're not, panicking.
Fingers crossed. So overall, it's a mixed picture across the different segments, but clearly, the unitary products are really carrying a lot of the weight here. What are some of the things that are consistently driving profitability and growth for Blue Star?
So some key themes that emerged. Number 1, scale benefits. As they grow larger, that just naturally helps profitability. And then they're shifting towards higher value products.
Okay, like what kind of products are we talking about?
Things like heavy-duty ACs, Wi-Fi-enabled ACs, higher margins on those products, and then their continuous investments in R&D, innovation, digitalization. That's crucial, right, to stay competitive. And, of course, they emphasize cost management. That's an ongoing focus. And they mentioned the stable pricing environment, which is supported by both competition and that increasing local manufacturing we talked about.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So it sounds like a pretty solid foundation for future success. But of course, there's always challenges. What are they seeing on the horizon? What might be some headwinds?
Well, supply chain constraints are a big one.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like everybody's dealing with that.
Yeah, it's not going away. And they said actually it's intensified after the U.S. elections, which, makes sense. So this is really pushing them to focus on indigenization, increasing domestic sourcing of components,
Right.
and also leveraging government initiatives like that PLI scheme, to really create that component ecosystem in India.
So they're not just sitting back and hoping for the best. They're actually being proactive.
Yeah, they're trying to, take control of the situation as much as they can. Now, they did say they're not facing any major shortages right now for the upcoming summer season, so that's good.
Okay, that's good.
But it's something they're definitely keeping a close eye on.
Right.
They also highlighted the potential impact of, the rupee depreciating, commodity prices going up, and then just general global supply chain disruptions. Those are always risks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Always got to be prepared for that. But overall, it sounded like the management was pretty optimistic, right, about the future.
Yeah, their outlook was positive. They're expecting strong demand as summer arrives. They're hoping for increased government spending. And then they see private sector CapEx, capital expenditures accelerating. So all positive trends for them.
Makes sense. And then they briefly talked about those upcoming energy label changes for ACs.
Yeah, that's happening in January 2026. But they assured everybody that they're already developing products that'll meet those new standards.
So they're on top of it.
They are. No scrambling at the last minute.
Good. Okay, and last but not least, did they discuss any big capital expenditure plans or any expansion of their production capacity?
They did. So they've got this ongoing expansion at their Sri City plant. Second phase of this aims to reach a capacity of 600,000 units.
Okay.
And they said they could even scale it up further to between 1.8 and 2.4 million units as
Hmm.
needed. Yeah, so a lot of potential there. And then in terms of capex, they've planned about 750 to 800 crore rupees over the next 3 years. That's going to go towards manufacturing, product development, and digitalization. So they're investing heavily in their growth.
Yeah, it's clear. All right, so as we wrap up here, let's just bring it all together. What are the key takeaways from this deep dive into Blue Star?
All right, so in a nutshell, they delivered a strong Q3 FY25, driven by the unitary products segment, especially those room ACs, right? That's the star of the show. Now, they do see some potential challenges from the supply chain, the global economy, all that, but their outlook remains optimistic. They're focused on capitalizing on that projected growth in the air conditioning market by leveraging their scale, continuous innovation, and strategic investments. So they're well positioned, I would say.
Yeah, sounds like it. And I think, as we kind of step back and think about all this, it's interesting to consider the bigger picture. We talked about consumer behavior, government policies, those growth forecasts. But what else might be out there that could significantly influence this market going forward? What are some of the less obvious factors? Think about things like sustainability, smart home integration,
Hmm.
maybe even disruptions in related industries like energy generation or
Yeah,
distribution.
that's a great point.
And it's not just about hotter summers.
Right, right. There are all these other forces at play that could really shape the future.
Exactly, exactly. So food for thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Definitely some interesting trends to watch in the consumer durables and manufacturing sectors in India. But for now, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive,
Thanks, everyone.
and we'll catch you next time.